Okay, it is 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Do need a motion to adopt the agenda with the addendum.
So moved.
Second. Sorry.
Moved and seconded to adopt that agenda with the addendum. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 3.0, approval of minutes from May 16th.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 4.0, consideration of bills and warrants. Any questions?
Move to approve the bills and warrants.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve those bills and warrants. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 5.0, hearing of requests and suggestions of citizens and organizations. Is there anyone that would like to address the board? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move to 6.0, report of the superintendent of schools.
All right, summer school is in full swing. So if you drive by one of our elementary buildings in the mornings, Monday through Thursday, you'll see a variety of kids. Total, district-wide, we've had about 150 students that have participated, and so we've had good turnout. So that's Monday through Thursday from 9 until 12:30. And on Thursdays, they're having a fun, they're getting to go on a little field trip that goes with the curriculum and the work that they've done during the course of the week. So it's been good. Our middle school, high schools averaged about 30 students that are participating in credit recovery. We're finishing out those courses for the semester for a grade, and then our workshop classes. So today I think they were cooking some barbecue. I got busy and didn't swing by, but I heard that was on the agenda for today. So
Is that 30 each or 30 together?
30 each. And so our elementary and middle school summer school ends June the 30th. So that, I mean, it's hard to believe we're already almost there. Summer's about halfway over. So now our high school will continue through the month of July, that credit recovery options, and that's a morning and an afternoon option as well. So that does continue through July. ESSER updates. Well, I thought today I was going to tell you we were still in primary review, because this morning we were still in primary review. So we did turn in our application on May the 23rd, and it's been in primary review since then. So I sent an email to ESSER this morning and said, you know, what's the timeline here? What can I? And this afternoon when I checked, I'd gotten an email that said, oh no, go back and look. Now we've made some adjustments. So they've asked for some additional information on that application. And so, not on the actual application itself yet, but they're going through the budget line items, and they want additional information, the number of students, very specific things. So we will get that done, which is good. The letter from the city for that EPA, for the project, for the HVAC. I was able to visit with Daryl Moyer today, and he's gonna get us that letter next week. So I think we're on the way, which is good. Now, I think there are some folks out here, maybe, that are out there, that we wanna recognize tonight for 25 years of service to the students of Kansas. Look at it, yeah. All right, and Mrs. Gardner can't be here this evening. She was in Kansas City for an appointment. So every year, typically in May, but everybody's kind of running behind, KU sends out a list of people across the state that have dedicated 25 years of service to the students in Kansas. May not all be in our district, for some it is, some it's not, but 25 years, that is a substantial milestone. And so we've got certificates for these three ladies. We'd like to recognize them. So here's Mrs. Gardner, so when she gets back. So Tiffany Hicks, 25 years, that's a great deal. All right, Hope Smith and Kendra Barkins. You are welcome. So, and you're welcome. These ladies have all dedicated many, many years of those 25 to Parsons, and they make a difference every day in the classroom. You're looking at some of the very best that we have. I'm proud of you. You do good work. All right.
Thank you.
Thank
For all
you.
your service.
Yeah.
All right, and the next thing that we've got coming up, we don't have on the actual report listed, but just so that you're aware, we have a lot of groups that are traveling. We have our HOSA group that's leaving for nationals tomorrow and headed to Nashville. We have a group that's leaving for TSA, and Kendra's going to go as their sponsor. That's coming up here in just the next week or so. And then our FCCLA group is traveling to San Diego Sunday as well. So those things are, groups of kids are going out and doing really good things. The other thing that we've got before the next board meeting is July the 4th. The district office is closed for Independence Day. So that's what I have. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Moving on to 7.0, the report on the June Tri-County Board meeting. Mr. Castle.
We had several action items this month. We approved a contract for Dr. Morrish. He does a sign off on Medicaid students who do not have a regular physician. $5 a student is what it costs us, and we get a whole bunch more back than that. So he's been doing that for us for a number of years. Technology disposal, approved to get rid of some of those old technology things that laying around collecting dust that they got rid of. We approved that. Approved the teacher's job description. Some curriculum material, Sunday materials for the pre-K through middle school, and bridges intervention for all the students. And then big one, we approved the district contributions for the coming year to be a 0% increase. There will be an increase in the TEC slots, but for overall, it's a good zero increase, which you don't see very often anywhere anymore. And then we approved the workman's compensation premiums.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to new business, item 8.0, action to accept donations to schools.
Okay, the donations are listed on page 37 in your packet. At Lincoln, the donations, there was a $30 donation for craft bags from the public library. At Garfield, they received a $6.40 donation unrestricted from Box Tops. Guthridge had a restricted donation for snow cones, $210 from the PTO, and an unrestricted donation, $25.10 for Box Tops. There were no donations at the middle school for the month of May. At the high school, there were anonymous donors making donations to the volleyball program for $260. Parsons Family Dentistry donated $350 to the volleyball program. Is that, okay, Will's Box Company, so Ray Products, donated $350 towards the volleyball program. Jennifer Eisinger donated $200 for the volleyball program. Don Seifert Family Fund, the Greater Area Kansas City Community Foundation, made a donation of $1,900 to the football program. Merlin and Charlene Taylor Family Fund, care of the Parsons Area Community Foundation, made a $1,900 donation to the weightlifting program. MRC Land and Cattle Company made a $2,000 donation for Honor Flight. St. Vincent de Paul made an Honor Flight donation of $500. CIEE made a $200 donation to the Spanish Club. Jock Snitch made a $134.55 donation to the tennis program. Ohio Pile Prints donated $3.50 towards the Positive Reinforcement Program. Roger Duroni donated $200 towards the Graphic Design Program. Golden Plains Credit Union donated $100 for FCCLA. CDL Electric donated $150 for FCCLA. Seacox Auto Sales donated $100 for FCCLA. Kurt and Mary Freeze donated $10 towards FCCLA. Commercial Bank made a $50 donation for FCCLA. There were $1,344.84 of anonymous donations to FCCLA. Tank Connection made a $250 donation to FCCLA. Mike Carpino Ford made a $100 donation to FCCLA. And Bowen Pharmacy made a $122 donation to FCCLA. Jocksnitch also donated to the softball program $222.59 for a total of $10,447.48 at the high school, and for the entire district for the month of May, a total of $10,718.98 worth of donations. So we appreciate the generosity of our community, and I recommend that you approve those donations.
So moved. Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve those donations. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Motion carries. 8.1, action to approve 21-22 amended budget as published.
All right. So Tanya's out there if you have specific questions. This was actually approved at the last board meeting. We just had to publish it, and we did, and there were no protests. So now what we need the board to do is to approve that we published it.
Need a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve that amended budget that was republished. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 8.2, action to approve 22-23 staff handbook, student parent handbooks, bus driver handbook, and parent-student transportation handbook.
All right. It was brought to my attention that the crisis crisis and response plan in each of the staff handbooks was not consistent. So we will go through and make that consistent with what we were given from our insurance company, their recommendation. So this was in 2 of the books, and the other books, it was not. So we will make that correction prior to anything being published and handed out to staff in August.
Any further discussion on those handbooks?
Make a motion to approve the handbooks as presented with the changes as just now brought to us.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the handbooks with the noted modification and the ones that need the crisis section updated. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Moving 8.3, first reading of the recommended CASB June policy updates. A big stack of those.
That big stack, and then I did put in the view some clarifying information because a lot of those will have a random blank. So just so that you're aware of what we currently have in policy. But if you have questions or any of it, we don't do anything with that until next board meeting. But if you have questions, please feel free to reach out and let me know.
Thank you. 8.4, action to set the July organizational meeting. We've the last few times done this kind of right at the beginning of our regular meeting, so is that everybody's wishes to convene initially for the organizational meeting and then follow that up with our regular board meeting? Won't take very long, it's like 5 minutes.
So moved.
July.
Okay.
July 18th.
Yep. Is there a second? Did you second that?
No, I said it's my birthday, but I'll second it.
Okay, all right, second, because it's your birthday.
Yeah, super
All right,
excited.
so it's been moved to second to set that July organizational meeting, 6 PM, then our regular board meeting will start immediately thereafter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Action on the cooperative agreement with St. Patrick's Catholic School.
So this is on page 38 in your packet. This is similar to what we've done in years past, based on their attendance, based on the numbers that they have enrolled, and what they'd like to participate in. So we welcome them coming and joining.
So they
our
do
teams.
girls' basketball on their own, is that right?
Yes, I think they have enough
And
for
volleyball.
girls' basketball.
And volleyball.
And volleyball. I think they have enough girl athletes.
So moved.
I second it.
Moved and seconded to approve that cooperative agreement as stated and printed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 8.6, action to authorize transfer of funds to close out fiscal year '22.
Okay, so this is a housekeeping thing that we do at the end of each fiscal year as we get ready. So we don't have an amount yet that we'll be transferring. We'll get that figured as Tanya wraps things up. We just need the authorization in which to move those funds.
Zero amount by statute.
Right, that is correct.
Pretty much a thing we do every year as stated.
Every year as stated.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to authorize Tanya to transfer those funds to close out fiscal year '22. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 8.7, we're going to talk about some insurance tonight, and I understand we've got Mr. Wood, Bob Wood here, so if he would come forward and discuss with us what we've got in front of us in terms of a proposal, we'd appreciate it.
And if you look at in your handout, the handout that you got just this evening, looks like that. On page 18 of that handout, that's going to tell you the final cost. And it looks like when I ran it, those two last lines kind of ran together. But the renewal premium looks like it'd be $175,496 compared to last year, which was $169,502.24. Now,
Without the cyber.
that doesn't include cyber and it doesn't include Washington, but Mr. Wood's gonna, you've got questions for
Sorry,
him
what was the
about
first thing
this.
you said? Not Washington, but what else?
Or cyber insurance.
Talk to us about
Yeah, if you want to
cyber
talk to
issue.
us, kind of talk to him about cyber insurance and what that's looking like.
I'm still watching my phone about every 10 minutes, hoping that things come through.
Yeah.
Yeah, cyber's been a difficult issue this year for a lot of public entities. Wish I had the numbers right now. I do have one number, but it's not a good one. I'm waiting on two more. So hopefully by the end of the month, I'll have it firmed up and have you in a good place. But we have seen pretty dramatic increases in cyber insurance costs for not only school districts, but counties and cities over the past couple of years. Just been a lot of activity in that arena. That's the new wave of crime, I think, and it's probably not going to get a lot better as we go forward. A lot of controls have to be put in place by the district to make sure that you're safe or as safe as you can be. The new things are invented every day, and they're figuring out ways to get around it. We were able to work with the IT department last week to get a few changes made and some tweaks that made our companies come back into the game and get a little bit more active for us. I think the premium for cyber insurance last year was around $9,000. Is that right, Lori? And
$6,000, about $7,000.
It was $7,000.
$7,000.
I've got one offer that is at 18.8, and I don't
So we
think we
don't
want to
want
go
that.
there. You know,
So he's,
I'm thinking maybe somewhere around 10 by the time I get done, but from what I'm seeing with other public entities, we will see some change there. And I just want to, I'm working them as hard as I can. I think when Ben McGuire and I got together last week, we were able to get some good answers that are going to make the markets, show a little bit more favor.
Can we pay in Bitcoin?
Well, it depends on the day.
You just took like a 67% hit on.
It's been a few years since I've been in front of the board to talk about the insurance program, and we've done this for quite a while for USD503, and we certainly appreciate that opportunity. We've had you placed with the Employers Mutual Safety Dividend Program. It's the majority of the school districts in Kansas participate in this program. They're the only insurance carrier that is insuring school districts right now. There is a self-insured pool that is offering coverage, but those things are kind of scary, I think. They're not guaranteed, and some districts have gone that way, but they're seeing big increases this year too. Employers is dedicated to the school market, to keeping coverage in place for the districts. They have to do it profitably, and so they've been taking some moves over the last couple of years to address that. The program works where all the districts contribute into a pool or a fund, and then the losses are calculated at the end of the year of the group total, and then they pay a dividend back to the districts based on their profitability. They do the same thing for counties separately and cities separately. And the county and the city program have been pretty successful about paying back, anywhere from 10 to 20% dividends on the premium. But they've never been able to get the school program in a place where they were able to do it. I think they had one time before last year where they had paid a dividend over the last 25 years. So they've been taking some rate to try to get it more in line to do that. This year's hit us, and it's not so much rate, it's valuation. And that's kind of an across-the-board issue in the insurance world right now. People's property values aren't high enough to rebuild their property. With the increased cost of construction that we're seeing and the shortage of materials, the time it takes to get things rebuilt, people are finding that they just don't have enough insurance to cover what they've got to replace. And so there's a big push in the industry to get valuations up. And that's what I dealt with this year. And I brought I'm going to pass this out. This was their initial valuation request when they sent me the numbers, and I probably got them 3 weeks ago, and I started looking at things, and their request initially was to increase valuations on the schools by probably 15% overall. which in turn increases your premium by 15% overall. Kind of goes hand in hand. But you see what they wanted in the way of evaluation increase, and wait until everybody sees this. But the second building is the middle school. And you see the building insured amount next to the first column right of the school description, and then what they estimate the replacement value of that building to be. They're probably right. Most of these are around $180 a square foot. And if you look at construction costs right now, that's probably pretty accurate. The challenge for the insurance carrier and for everyone here is co-insurance. And the blanket that we have in place for all the schools building says that you agree to insure the buildings up within 90% of its replacement cost value. So the company then has the right, if at the time of a loss, let's say 6 months from now, we had a storm come through and damage several of the buildings, the carrier can go back and then do a valuation of all the buildings on the blanket and determine what their replacement cost is. And if you aren't insured to 90%, at least 90% of that value, they can penalize your loss payment and by whatever percentage you're under, and under the 90. It's a complicated insurance process, but it's their way of making sure they're getting the premium for the risk that they need to get. So if they want to maintain replacement cost coverage for you and agree to replace whatever damage you have instead of depreciating your payment, they want you to insure it and as close as you can to replacement value. So you see the RC value column. That's what they wanted as far as an increase on some of these locations. We were pretty good on the high school, but then again, we've just gone through, we're more recent to the renovation on the high school, so we kind of knew what those numbers were. The middle school was a big jump, and you'll see the jumps on the grade school buildings. And I think those come in about $148 a square foot, so they're not at 180 yet, which is probably the better number. Do they have the valuation page, Lori?
Yes. they should
So
have
if you look at, on page 6 of our renewal summary, you'll see that the blanketed total went up about $3 million from 63 million to 66 million some odd. So I was able to negotiate with them and get them to knock some of these numbers down. I'm looking for the middle school. I got them at 19,196,312 instead of the 23 million they wanted. They did increase the high school. Their plan was to increase everything by 7% across the board. And so we negotiated the middle school and we negotiated the 3 grade school buildings at kind of a stepped up level towards where they want us to be on replacement cost. And that held the cost down a little bit. I think if we would have done everything we wanted, it would have been about $6 million more in valuation. But I did get them, EMC as a carrier has agreed that if you take the values that everybody agrees to today, they're not going to access co-insurance if there is a claim later. We've read a lot of information about policies that have been put into place on today, for instance, and 6 months later, where everybody agreed that was the replacement cost value. 6 months later, there's a claim, and they go in and do evaluation, and the costs have increased so quickly that they've gotten themselves in a problem for co-insurance. So it's an industry-wide problem, but it does come home when we look at the premium and see what happens on the renewal. On the increase in premium is largely because of this, because of the property value increase. We do think that the program is going to be profitable again this year. We did bring a dividend check of approximately $7,000 to $8,000 last year. We think that it's going to be even better this year, knock on wood. Things don't happen. And that's good. We have a pretty good relationship with this carrier, and we talk to the people that are in charge of the program. We know that if they don't get it on a profitable basis, they're going to stop doing it too. And we don't need that in Kansas. I mean, you have to have a place to be able to insure your buildings and take care of the things that you need to as a district. So I'm sympathetic to them. There's a reason they're the only one doing it, because it's just not profitable for other carriers to write this business. So nothing against schools, it's just, if you look at any community, pretty much in the state of Kansas, the one largest exposure to wind and hail is a school district. Between auditoriums and gymnasiums and classroom buildings, it's the biggest deal in town in most cases.
Well, if the cyber comes in somewhere around 10, then that means our renewal will be about, close to 185. That's 10% above the expiring premium. In this kind of market, and with the valuation increase, I don't have any heartburn over that. Honestly, you're talking about 10% increase with what's going on in the world the last year. It's just no heartburn out of me.
Well, Bob's
My
worked,
opinion.
yeah, he's worked really
Yeah.
hard
So,
to negotiate, to get down those rates.
What we do, we don't like, the fact that they kind of have a monopoly in this business is, what we push back on them all the time is you got to maintain your credibility. So, you're the only game in town, but at the same time, you can't make everybody mad, because the minute something comes along that's an alternative to them, everybody's going to jump ship. They're going to get mad, and I think they understand that. They're trying to do things at a profitable level. They're a good company. They've got great programs for the schools. I think, Lori, you mentioned that you had input on the security study a little while ago, and they do a excellent safe school security assessment. They know the business. They know what's going on with your staff. They've got things in place for the board on their linebacker policy with protection for lawsuits and wage and hour replacement and those types of things. It's designed well for school districts.
any other questions from Mr. Wood here today? Well, we sure appreciate you coming and explaining things to us and going to bat for us. And the long-term relationship you've had with the school district. So,
Very much appreciated.
We appreciate it too, and I'm going to keep working hard on the cyber to get the best deal.
Yeah, let's let you
I
know.
certainly hope that it is around 10.
Yeah.
Jeff, that's where it should be compared to what other things that I'm seeing.
Yeah,
So,
well, that's what we're hopeful for,
right.
because we know that has been, we all read the news and we know what's going on in the country when cyber attacks are not going down in frequency or down in value.
Well, it's just an undependable crime. You can kind of know what to worry about if somebody's going to steal from you, or if they're going to do
Yeah.
something like that. But
Yeah.
but these hacker cyber guys, they'll think of something new every day, and the world just has to keep reacting to what they're doing and trying to plug holes like in the dike, when they start to pop. So we'll do our best on that, and we do appreciate it.
Okay. Anything
Thank you.
further? All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
I need a motion here.
So moved.
Well, we have a separate motion later, or
On-
be
on
on
the
it.
cyber.
On the
Yeah,
cyber.
so this is everything except cyber.
Second.
Okay, moved and second to approve these renewal quotes, everything except the cyber, which we'll do at a later point in time. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 8.8, action to approve participation in the Green Bush Energy Group.
These next two line items are things that the district typically does every year. This makes sure that if something like Ice-Ageddon happens, like it did a couple years ago where it got so cold and pipes burst, you don't remember those days, and rolling blackouts and all of those things, that we've got competitive prices and protections. And so the first of those is that, the first is the energy group to acquire the natural gas for the school district. So we obviously recommend that you do that, otherwise we're on our own.
Is this something that we do shop, or can it be shopped? I don't even know.
It really, Mike, it really can't be shopped. Originally, they weren't sure they could find anyone at all. The first meeting that we had with David Banks is his name, he came and he's like, well, hopefully, maybe, and we thought, we were all gonna have to go on our own. But he was able to firm up this option for us. So no, there are not a lot of options.
The only other option is the KSP one, and they're pretty close to the same.
So 8, 8, and 8, 9 kind of go hand in hand.
They do. One is for energy.
The energy group, and they
Yeah.
you give them authority to hedge, and then the second one's the actual
Right.
provider of the natural gas, and so
Right.
they kind of go hand in hand. Further discussion? Okay, need a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve the participation in the Greenbush Energy Group and hedging authorization 2223 for section 8.8.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded to approve participation with the Greenbush Energy Group. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope, motion carries. And 8.9, action to approve the contract with Encore/Kansas Gas to provide the natural gas. Need a motion on that?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Moved and seconded to approve that contract with Encore Kansas Gas to provide the natural gas for 22-23. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 8.10, discussion and action to contract with the city of Parsons to provide a school resource officer. What do we know about that?
Okay, so this is typically something that we do in July. However, you read the view last week when I'd met with the chief and the assistant chief. They currently do not have staff in our police department in order to provide an SRO. So they do have a couple new candidates that are going through the law enforcement training school, or that at the academy, I think they call it. So they are hopeful that by December, we could look at second semester and having our resource officer back. What's happening is a lot of larger municipalities where there's room for advancement and there's higher pay are cherry picking officers, that have some experience, that have been trained, and so that continues to reduce our force. So I would recommend that as soon as we have an SRO available, that we would obviously employ them. So once they have enough staff on PD, then Cheyenne would get to come back. So
we really don't have anything to take action on.
I think we can just, if the board would like to table it, and then we'll put it on our December agenda and visit with the law enforcement again at that time to see what their staffing issues are.
Yeah, we'll just play it by ear, and if they contact you and suggest something in between, then we'll deal with it.
Absolutely. And of course, we can always call them anytime that we need them as well. So it isn't that we don't have access. We do. Just won't be a school resource officer on site all day, every day.
Just not ready access, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, and that's important right
It
now.
is. It is.
Okay, 8.11, action on memorandum of agreement with the Greenbush for the parents and teachers participation for the 22-23 school year.
Okay, so it's that early learning program for births up to 5 or 6. All that information was in the view last week. It works out, that's $900 is what the district pays per family or per child that participates. So it's a total of $18,000 in cost. So it's a wonderful early intervention. Allows us to really reach out and meet young parents where they are and help them get the things that they need in order to be their child's most successful first teacher. So I would recommend that you approve that for the 22-23 year.
The books that they get for every family is,
Right. As a part of Parents as Teachers, they receive they're in the Dolly Parton Imagination Library.
But anyone
So-
can sign up to be in that program too.
Anyone.
anyone can.
Anyone
And
can.
That's what.
It's just they get an
And
additional.
Labette Health really promotes it too.
Yes.
So
And we've got
it's-
little, books that when they're born, they get sent home. But they do have a trained parent educator that makes a home visit once a month
Yeah.
and provides a developmentally appropriate activity for the child and parent to do together that doesn't cost money. It isn't something that the parent has to go out and buy, but things that they can use in their cabinet or things that they can talk about when they go to the grocery store. It's really, really good first learning.
And that is an early start, like what, 3 or 4 months?
Birth.
old?
Birth. They make visits.
And they do see prenatal, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you see prenatal families. So clear back in 97, 96, I was the parent educator, and that was, you'd get those little bitty babies, brand new. Because we provide all that information that they give out at the hospital. So when they're born, they come home with a little bag from Parsons USD503, and that information is in there as well as a good book. So.
Who is that person?
what is her name? Her last name's Thien. I've met her once or twice. I could look up and tell you what her name is. So she's met with the Lincoln staff and those preschool teachers, just to make sure that there's a good connection as they transfer into school. Yeah.
Communication's always been very good. Parents as teachers. Yes, yeah. And then Karen Haynes did also. Karen Haynes was wonderful.
She was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, her name is Kim Theron. And so they also do activities at night that, or sometimes during the play groups.
Yeah, during the day, they come to Curious Minds, like on the same Friday, once
Yeah.
a month.
Yeah.
And it's always very well attended.
And so there were a variety of things that they do with blocks and water play and all of those things. That was all in the view last week or so. So,
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, move to approve the memorandum of agreement with Greenbush for the Parents as Teachers program. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 8.12, we're going to table. We may need to have a special board meeting.
and I have,
Because we're just not ready to deal with that at this point in time, it sounds like.
Mr. Crispin wasn't able to be here with us this evening. He also is very short-staffed at the rec center, and so it's not quite a one-man show, but it's close. So he's, I think, really running things. He is available to meet on July the 25th or the 26th. He's out of town in July. So one of those days, if we could have a special meeting, he would prefer early morning before the rec opens at 7:30.
So are you suggesting he's not available until June or July 25th?
That is, yes, when I was able to speak with him this afternoon, he's going to be out of town in July, not the whole month, but on and off. He didn't think he would be available and back in town available until July 19th, which is the day after our board meeting. And so I asked for a couple days where he felt like he could meet, and those were the 2 days in which he gave me.
Okay. It's my preference for us not to take action until we can have him in front of us and we can talk with him and have a dialogue.
I agree.
I think it's really important because this has a lot of,
Moving parts.
yeah, it has a lot of moving parts. It's something we've never done before at all. And it's something that, our administration is not well versed in. So we all just need to be on the same page. And so I would prefer to get together before then, but if we have to wait, I guess we have to wait.
And we're continuing to do the work. Tim can tell you, things are happening. We've hired someone, those fields are being maintained. They're coming to drill the holes next week. Scoreboard is in. Gary said he's waiting on getting an engineer stamp for that, which I don't know anything about that.
Okay.
The lease agreement is complete. It's been approved by KASB. He had some changes, some suggestions that he sent yesterday via email. Visited with Luke Soba again today. He didn't feel like those would be a problem. So that's all ready. The MOU needs to reflect what's in the lease, and it doesn't currently. So that needs to be updated. When I visited with Gary this afternoon, he thought that he'd be able to do that. He just isn't available to meet until the 25th or 26th.
Okay, so we're going to move on then. We'll deal with it. When you call a special meeting, we'll have to do it then.
Do we want to set that meeting now or do we want to wait?
I would prefer to wait, just because my calendar's kind of fluid right now, so if we could wait a couple of days, then I'll know, and then we can get it set.
Okay.
8.13, discussion and possible action on use of facility.
All right, this was the request by a local church to use the high school auditorium and lobby area, which would include those restrooms, for Sundays for the next 6 months. There is a fee schedule that is attached when someone rents the building or uses the building. They pay custodial fees, there's a $10 an hour fee, all of those things are currently in policy. The only difference is when it's going to be something that's long-term, and 6 months would be considered long-term, that's something that requires board action. So I do think it's important to note that if the board were to approve this, then any future organizations that would like a long-term opportunity, we'd have, if we were to deny any of those opportunities, it would open us up to some discrimination.
I have a couple comments. I spent all last week looking up some of the state statutes regarding churches and public schools. And today I got the wind taken out of my sails at the last minute by the Supreme Court and by some people that I talked to. So last week I found out that there were two. One was a statute, House Bill number 2288, that basically says religious groups shall be provided the same access to school facilities for assembling as is provided to other non-curricular groups without discriminating based on the religious content of the student expression. The school district shall not discriminate against groups that meet for prayer or other religious speech. And then, that happened to be in 2019. Then, the Honorable Attorney General Robert T. Stephan, February 26, 1982, Attorney General Opinion Number 82-51, basically said, the fact that the semblance of state support for religion is minimal under a policy of equal access to school facilities at periods of time not reasonably connected with instruction, meaning Sundays when none of our kids are in school. With instruction during the school day, we perceive no compelling state interest to justify a Board of Education excluding religious organizations from the privilege of leasing school buildings on the same terms and conditions as other non-school related groups, blah, 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 blah. Today, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 with the 6 conservative Supreme Court justices, 5 of whom are Catholic, saying that school choice is something that they believe in, meaning public monies, taxpayer monies from the public can be used for private schools, whether it be vouchers or scholarships. 5 of those judges happen to go to private institutions, happen to be Catholic schools. And I'm not trying to knock my own religion, I'm just saying those are the facts. That being said, someone told me, and had my memory refreshed, and you may remember this. At one time, the Nazarene Church was across the street from Guthridge in that A-frame building. And they had a fire in 2005. Well, from 2005 to 2006, the Nazarene Church held services at Guthridge School for 1 year. Also, from 2002 to 2007, the Nazarene Church also used Guthridge School to have meetings with their youth group. So you talk about precedents, it looks like the precedent was already set. So that changes the way I look at things. So in other words, the Supreme Court says, oh, church and state, well, the lines are really blurry now. There may be no such thing as these 6 judges alluded to today. So we need to be careful as to how we vote on this.
Is there a reason?
Like I'm saying, the precedent was already set.
Is there a reason why that, are they undergoing construction or?
It's my understanding they've sold their building
Yeah.
and will have to be out by
They're
the end of
moving.
August.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so they have nowhere to hold their
So they have nowhere to
services.
hold
Okay.
services, so, and it's,
I was just going to bring up, but I was at Guthridge many, many years, and the Nazarene Church in Guthridge always had a very good working relationship. I mean, we used their parking lot.
Exactly.
We shared facilities a lot.
Did our high school kids used to go over there and have
The
meals?
lunch
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
they
lunch
used to have the lunch
I mean,
breaks.
it's a,
So the door's already open is what I'm saying, from what I've been told. And what I see in the 2 different statutes that I mentioned.
and we did the facilities, there's a request for the use of facilities that's board policy, and so we'd already had that filled out, and that takes into account like the custodial hours that it would require, and the number of days and the number of hours, and so we've shared that amount that cost with the Nazarene Church, so they were aware that there would be a cost and
Right.
that they were acceptable.
I talked with Pastor Christie. I go there every day. I talked with Pastor Christie and Pastor Jake. They're well aware of that.
Right.
The
Oh,
whole
yeah.
idea of some of these statutes was originally to make sure that the taxpayers weren't subsidizing religious organizations. That's why we charge for the custodial fees, so it's a neutral obligation. But what the Supreme Court says, they don't really care. Don't charge them. I'm saying, Pastor Christie and Pastor Jake said, we will pay whatever we need to pay. And I think the agreement was close to $5,000 or $6,000 for the 6 months.
It was, but
Plus, I asked them, well, wait a second, what about some insurance, some liability? Let's say there's a shooting, let's say there's a fire, let's say there's a fight. He checked in with their superiors, and they have another $2 million added on to their liability insurance to cover the insurance when they use the building for 6 months. Yes, that does open the door for any other organization. However, someone opened the door. I'm not going to point fingers, but like Joanne said, we've had a relationship with that particular church for a long period of time, and who knows what's going to happen in the future.
Is this
None
a
of us
hard?
were on the-
Go ahead, please.
Go ahead.
No, please.
None of us were on the board at the time. I was a teacher. I forgot all about it, but someone refreshed my memory, and then Supreme Court today opened the door, especially for Kansas. We will be using, it looks like we'll be using public money, taxpayer money, to help subsidize private schools.
Was this a hard 6 months? Is this something while they're looking for a new location, or are they just
It's-
doing this as a stepping stone to, okay, well, we'll do it for 6 months, then we'll extend another 6 months, and then another 6
Well,
months, and then this turns into
It's
6
my
years?
It's my understanding that they're looking for a new location. But I don't know how long that will take.
So it could be a lot longer than 6 months.
Yeah,
It
I
could be
mean,
6 months and then it's revisited, or it could be that, they find some other place in 3 or 4 months. I don't know. It's just dependent on availability. But it's my understanding that they are looking for an additional.
When I talked to Pastor Christie this morning, 6 months was a kind of an arbitrary time while they could look for something to move into. So I said, what's your plan B? Well, she said, they called the movie theater, but they haven't had a response yet, which would be a pretty good option to use the theater on Sundays. Plan B, or Plan B.2 would be to use another church, but that runs into a little conflict too. To use the auditorium, they haven't looked at municipal auditorium, but municipal auditorium would have the same issues that we would have had all these statutes not been in place and what the Supreme Court ruled on. To use the Parsons, the convention center up by Holiday Inn was $1,200 each Sunday.
What?
So that was out.
And the caveat to this is we would have to find someone that would be willing to come in and unlock and work and do the custodial piece of that. Because if we use one of the current custodians, which we had talked about, then they're going to have over 40 hours. So that would add, but all of that time would be paid for and put in the agreement.
Could they not be responsible for the cleanup or no?
No.
Cost, whatever the cost is.
Right. What we have in policy is that if an outside agency uses it, then we have a staff that come in and clean it and make sure that it meets our standards and requirements.
If we have one of our custodians clean it on Sunday and they go into overtime, is the Nazarene Church going to pay the overtime for that individual?
They would have to.
Okay.
That would be, and I don't know that we figured that when we figured the custodial rate. And first, then we have to find someone who's willing to do it.
Well, it sounds to me like the precedent's been set.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, and that,
The statutes, I disagree somewhat. Those statutes, I think, were meant to keep everyone from discriminating
Right.
only. That we couldn't say to the Nazarenes, no, the Methodists, yes, it's one or all. And I think that was the angst that we had was, is this opening the door? Well, it appears to me, the information you have, the door has already been opened.
Right.
And so I'm not sure we have a whole lot of choice no matter at this point.
Well, I think at this point, though, so you referenced the $1,200 out of the new convention center or conference center. At this point, if we're going to be running into these long-term deals, the pricing has to be structured so that a church doesn't have an incentive just to do this forever. Otherwise, why would you go pay high real estate prices, pay for insurance for, like we just approved for our facilities and everything else, if you could just pay $1,000 a month to a school district and go down the road? I mean, that's the reality. So,
Well, and I think the way the policy is written, it was intended for a short-term use. So the form itself is for short-term. It's 1 hour at a time. It isn't intended for long-term. So I think you're right
okay.
there.
Mr.
So we're saying that the time is 1 hour?
No.
No.
In policy, it's written 1 hour per, okay. So here's what the form looks like. So in secondary schools, the gymnasium or the auditorium, the hourly charge is $10. So that's what's currently in policy. And then the custodial rate would be their hourly rate. But the policy was written for a short term, and that's why it specifically says facilities are not intended for the ongoing continual use by any group except with board approval.
Okay.
So that's,
Mr. McGuire, do you have something to add here?
I'm sorry.
Yes, excuse me. You would also need some sort of, so we're talking about the auditorium, correct?
They said
Like an
they're.
audio,
They said they are
video
not,
tech?
because I asked about that as well, because we have a very nice projector and an audio system, and they said that they would bring in, they have a portable unit that they would bring for sound
Okay,
and for
all right.
microphones. So yes,
Okay. So I
you're
just wanted to
right.
make sure we were covered in those bases too, because then we would need
We would need an
also need a
additional
tech
staff
person
person
there,
for
too.
tech,
So-
But it was my understanding that they had portable things that
That's what
they
she
And
said
that's
this
for-
morning.
could bring.
for audio and visual.
They said
Yes.
that they had portable things that they could,
Okay,
they
all
would
right,
take
that
care
was
of.
my main concern, so
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for your time.
Well, once again, I mean, we just need to make sure we're not out any money, because this is a good deal for them. It's cheaper than what they can do elsewhere probably, which is fine. We just need to make sure we're not subsidizing that activity. That's my opinion. And I don't know if our current rate structure,
Yeah, who set that hourly charge at $10? Like, when was that set?
And
In
that-
2005?
Years ago.
Years and
Years
years, I
ago.
mean, yes.
So can we
Not six.
revisit that?
I believe they'd be open to change. That's, I don't know when that policy was written, but it needs to be updated. And I think to negotiate with Pastor Jake and Pastor Christie, like Jeff said, as long as it's fair and equitable for us and for them, I think that would work.
Well, it doesn't even apply though. That's a short-term one. This is more the long-term one, so it's.
Yeah, that's the
gonna be a little
problem.
different.
Well,
we gotta figure
I don't
something out.
disagree. Like Mike said, they used it for over a year before. That's where we're in a bind. And it's hard to undo what was already done.
it's not that we're in a bind, it's just we are subject to the same problems everybody else is. We're short people, we're short worker, we're short labor. And asking someone to come in and work on a Sunday to clean, yeah, we'll find somebody. We just don't know what we're gonna have to pay them.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That as long as they know that, and this is public information now, I'm saying, they told me this morning they would be fine with that.
Be willing to negotiate the price, the cost.
That's what I was told this morning by Pastor Christie, yes.
For that type of a deal, we just need to make sure we understand our cost structure.
Exactly.
That they're gonna agree to that, and so.
Exactly. So I asked them all those questions this morning, so.
Would they sign some type of a short-term contract, or is that something?
I think we
that's-
would need something
Yeah,
in
We
writing.
need something in
I
writing.
think we need.
Yeah.
And they're wanting to start the 1st of September.
The end of August. That last, the last, potentially August the 28th. That would be the first Sunday for 6 months.
So we could say we tentatively agree, but we need to do some negotiating and get a contract prepared so we can make it official in July?
The board would like to do that, yes.
I mean, I think we can agree in principle to the use of the facility, but we have got to get a written agreement put together, I think, to protect both sides. And so I think we're gonna have to take action on that. So we can take action on moving forward with drafting that agreement for our approval and their approval. So we can take that action tonight, but we don't have that agreement yet. Okay, that's it.
And in that agreement, we need to include the insurance clause too.
Yeah, that they need to have their insurance and,
I
right,
think that
as
needs to
Lou
be in that
discussed.
agreement, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so the motion then would be agree to moving forward with accepting their proposals or their request to use the facility to move forward with contract preparation, is what it would be, agreement preparation for mutual approval.
Well, I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Do you have the motion then? Okay. So the motion's going to be, the board will agree to move forward with the preparation and negotiation with Nazarene Church for use of our facility as they've requested. Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Moving on to 814, action on meal prices.
Okay, all right. So the USDA is not planning on free meals for students for 22-23, which means we're going back to the free and reduced lunch application, which will be available July the 1st, and we'll put it out. And so it's recommended that the meal prices be approved that are listed below. Now, these are the meal prices that we had the last time we had students pay for meals. There's not been an increase. When we compared our prices to others in the SEK, our meal prices were a little higher, but we have to remember that we used an outside contracted agency to provide those meals, and every year they would give us an increase, and so then the board had to increase the prices as well. So there are the prices for breakfast and for lunch. A free meal is obviously free. A reduced meal is 40 cents. So, I mean, then those are set by the feds. That's not anything we have any control over. But
Are we
here's what
still at approximately, 69% free and reduced?
Probably more than that.
I would suspect we'll be closer to 75. We're going to look, I'd like to see if we have community eligibility. We've looked at that before. We haven't quite made those numbers yet. It's possible we might this next time. And if we do, then we'd be eligible. It would be a different application, but we would be able to then go back to everyone having a free meal if we were eligible community-wide. And that's why it's critically important that everyone fill out the lunch application. So even if your kid's a senior and you're like, yeah, he's leaving, he's got open lunch, he's not, fill out the application. Because the more students that we have that are eligible for free and reduced lunches district-wide helps us get that percentage. And if we can get to 75%, I think it's 75 or is it 80? Right up in there. Then we would be eligible to apply for some of the community-based free meals.
So
That's
that's
tough
something
to
that-
get. I mean.
It is tough.
That's the hard thing.
It is tough.
That parents do not want to.
And parents
Yeah,
don't
but
often
could we
want to
have
fill
it
out.
as a form that needs to be completed at enrollment time?
Well, we can't require, it's
Yeah.
illegal to
We've
require.
always tried. I
Yeah,
mean,
we
you-
tried.
you
They
put it
really
in there.
push it, but they don't
And-
have,
yeah.
there's not a lot of people that
And we
like
can't
it.
give an incentive. We can't say, oh, hey, if you fill this out.
Elementary's a
you
lot
get that.
stronger.
Yeah, they do. That is not legal.
Middle
We do
school
not do
and high
that.
school, no.
No. And so now a lot of times a form will come in and it's not completed. And so we've got staff like Barb McClellan, she's our determining official. She's looking through those forms. She and I have made home visits. One year we went through the drive-through at Brahms because we knew the mom worked there and I knew if I went through the drive-through, she'd sign the form. Because it was all completed and she said, I can't come and sign it. Well, I'll bring it to you. So we make those efforts, but I would include folks that are out there listening, when it's time for enrollment, I encourage you to fill those out. But right now, the new application will be available July the 1st, and here are the meal prices. So I think they're very reasonable.
Can you follow up with what the percentage is, if it's 75 or 80 community?
We won't be able, if it's, I think once we've done this year, I think we're gonna have to stay with what we currently have until we write for the next year.
Oh, then we could
So,
go potentially.
so then potentially in 23, 24, if we met those community numbers, it's possible we could change the plan. But the plan is so specific. It says this is what time we're going to eat in each building, and this is how much it's going to cost, and this is the procedures and policies. So that'll be in place for the 22, 23. And then if we meet the number requirements, we'll look at when we rewrite for the 23, 24 year, doing that, if we have enough, for sure.
Okay, need a motion on those meal prices.
Move to approve the 2022-23 school lunch price.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve those meal prices that include lunch and breakfast for 22-23. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 8.15, action to approve current meal charge policy.
Okay, so that's on page 48 through 50. This is the policy that's been in place for a number of years. When we turn in our application for our program each year, we are required to have the current meal charge policy included in addition to the food service written standard of conduct. So that's why those two things are included for your action this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the current meal charge policy as printed there. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 8.16, action to approve the food service written standard of conduct.
Okay, and so that's on page 51, 52. That basically says anybody that worked, they're not going to take incentives or extra things to go with certain companies or to purchase food and do those kinds of things.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve that food service written standard of conduct. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Now we're ready for.
8.17, executive session.
Well, we still have.
Oh, sorry, we've got the agenda, the addendum that's in 16 numbers, huh? Okay.
Right, sure. So we've got 8.16A, which is discussion and action on a possible additional football coach. So
Okay,
that information was included in your view on June the 10th with the letter from Coach Scheibe with that request. Rob did support that recommendation, that position be added. We also then gave you the numbers of the SEK, other football coaches, the numbers in the area.
Coach Scheibe and his staff are very active fundraising, very active advocates for our players.
And the program just continues to grow.
And he said he'd even take a cut in his pay to do this. My only concern is, I would hope if we did hire another football coach, we'd certainly think about hiring another music teacher.
Yeah,
That Rosenberg
orchestra.
asked for, so I just,
Yeah,
not making that a caveat, I'm just making that a statement.
I stand on that as well,
Yeah, I think that,
equally. I mean, this just came up and immediately we're voting on it. And the orchestra, it's been a while,
Well,
and we haven't
This would be a
even brought it
supplemental
forward.
position. So.
And that
with,
program has grown as well.
I don't disagree. With all due respect, though, we're talking about a coach that's not a person that would be earning tenure and at a much, much smaller amount of money than a faculty line. I think that we will visit, and that was the intention, I think, of our discussion, to visit about the music teacher when some things played out. And I see us going in that direction, assuming our numbers grow, so I don't have any issue with that.
This is a supplemental position.
Yeah.
Correct, this will
forget
just be a
We'll be
supplemental
putting-
assistant.
Keeping it on the table for sure.
Okay, that's
Let's not
fine.
forget about it.
We won't
No, that-
forget, won't forget.
That's a good point.
And this
But
person
sorry. And I have
would be
nothing
paid.
against the football
Oh, yeah.
program. I think it's
Yeah.
wonderful. I think it's great. I think we have other things that are wonderful and great
Yeah.
as well,
We do.
I agree.
And so,
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Does Coach Scheibe already know who he would like to
No,
hire?
what we would do is we would open this position up for applicants, and then they would go through an interview,
Okay.
just like any other position.
So based upon that, would we pay based upon experience, or is it just going to be paid at the assistant football line item price?
They'd have to go in.
Supplemental.
If they're a teacher, they'd probably go in.
So that would depend
On the
upon.
supplemental scale.
Yeah, that would depend upon if they were a teacher or if they were a Rule 10 person, any experience they had, and then it would all be in negotiations based on the
Okay.
supplementals. So,
So it's not negotiated?
No,
It's,
no,
it's supplemental schedule.
got it. Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
on the supplemental schedule.
I motion that we approve for Coach Shiley to
Yeah, I'll second that.
get an additional football coach.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve and adding an additional assistant football coach. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 816B, action to approve remaining cost of the FCCLA national trip.
All right, so in your email today, Mrs. Schaefer emailed all of you and let you know, and if you were listening through those donations, there were a number of FCCLA donations that the group went out and gathered this year, just since April.
They worked very hard.
They-
They're a
yes.
great group.
They did.
They would be great representatives.
Move to approve this money for FCCLA national trip to San Diego.
Okay, move to improve the remaining cost of the FCCLA national trip to San Diego not to exceed $5,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Question?
Yeah.
Sure.
Are we approving the full $5,000 so that then they'll have the remaining part in the balance? Like what she stated today in her email, or are we approving the rest of the cost so that the cost will be, the trip will be fully funded?
Have you figured out whether the flights were in the
Okay,
13?
and yes, so they have raised so far $10,422.86, and that will reimburse the district the $10,157.64 that we had paid for flights and hotels. So that leaves about $265 to the good. Now, they also have meal money that they'll be able to take. However, the per diem in San Diego is a lot different than if you're going someplace here in Kansas to eat. It's $74 a day. So what we'd like to, it looks like it's going to be about $3,000 to make sure that they have everything covered. And then what we would do is send them with the district credit card and pay for actual meals. And you can do it that way, which would probably be less. And then whatever would be left after that $5,000 remaining. Next year she's going to get a new budget, so there'll be money put in her line item next year to start the school year anyway. I think it's going to take about $5,000 to finish paying for it and for the meals.
So we'll probably use all the 5,000.
I think she'll use all the
Okay.
5,000.
But if they don't,
If they
it'll be
don't?
on the card and we'll just have it.
Right.
Okay. All right. So let's vote again. We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Maybe opposed? Okay.
Now, executive
Motion
session.
carries. Now we'll go to executive session. So what do you need time-wise?
I would say 15.
Okay, anybody have anything for executive session they'd like to discuss?
I might have 2 minutes.
Okay, let's,
20?
yeah, let's go ahead and do 20 then, yeah. Okay, I need a motion to enter executive session. 20 minutes.
So moved.
Okay, your second.
Second.
Moved and seconded to go into executive session to discuss confidential employee information pursuant to non-elected personnel exception of Tacoma and the exception employer-employee negotiations in Tacoma at 7:09 for 20 minutes, and we'll return back here at 7:29. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are in executive session for 20 minutes. Back here at 7:29 in the open. Okay, we're back in regular session. We do need to extend another 10 minutes. Need to extend another 10 minutes here, and we're going to take a 5-minute bathroom break before we do that. So we've got some issues we need to deal with there. So I need another motion for executive session. 10 minutes.
7:45?
Yeah.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
moved and seconded to enter executive session for the same purposes, confidential employee information pursuant to non-elected personnel in Tacoma, exception for employer-employee negotiations in Tacoma at 7:31. We'll have a bathroom break till 7:36, and so we'll be back here until 7, we'll be back in open session at 7:46. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are back in open session. We're moving to item 8.18, action on personnel.
All right, we have the following recommendations for employment effective the 22-23 school year. Lori Griffin, Lincoln Title I aide. Cypress Jones, High School Edgenuity ISS aide. Terry Jones, Garfield Title I aide. Lillian Kendrick, preschool aide. Kylie Lucas, High School Academic Advisor. Mackenzie Manus, preschool aide. Christina Mayu, social worker. Bailey Monty, Garfield Behavior Support Aide. Brianna Nush, Garfield STEM Instructional Aide. Terry Smith, middle school VSP teacher. Sherry Tierney, second grade teacher. I would recommend that you approve those recommendations for employment.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve those employment recommendations. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
All right, we had some resignations from employment. Ryan Chandler, high school ISS aide, effective June the 6th, 2022. Katie Hayden, Garfield STEM instructional aide, effective May the 25th, 2022. Mike Curl, 7th grade social studies teacher, effective June the 3rd, 2022. Chad Rourke, elementary PE teacher, effective May the 31st, 2022. And Glenn Wendler, bus driver, effective June the 15th, 2022. I recommend that you approve those resignations from employment.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve those resignations. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Looks like with no further business, we're adjourned.